Hello, good Friday evening. Welcome to Varsity Sports Live. Tom Neiman along with Jason and Dara with Jody Norstedt coming up in Fargo with the North Dakota highlights of the night. Jandy, we're 8 weeks into this thing. Do you know anything more than you knew 8 weeks ago?
If I would have known what I know now 8 weeks ago, everyone would be calling me a genius. And trust me, nobody's calling me a genius right now.
11 AAA. Let's start with that. Just a quick thought after the games tonight. Harrisburg and Brandon Valley both win big. They've got a collision course coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've got a really hot team coming on. It's called the Roosevelt Rough Riders. They're a team to watch out for. Tomorrow's going to tell us a lot between Lincoln and Jefferson. And right now, Brandon Valley and Harrisburg, until they're beat, I mean, they're the favorites.
T area keeps on rolling and 11 AA unbeaten. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start with the scoreboard in the North Dakota finals tonight. 29 wins in a row now for Bismarck Century as they shut out Bismarck High, and Century is 7-0 this season.
Highlights coming.
Bismarck Legacy gets to 3-4. A win over Minot tonight, 28-19.
We expect highlights from there too.
Fargo Davies is 5-2 as they beat Fargo South tonight. West Fargo Sheyenne is 7-0, 30-13 over Fargo North this evening.
I think Cheyenne's the real team that you have to watch in the East that's going to contend with Century and maybe bringing down that streak at the end of the year.
Mandan knocks off Jamestown. Jamestown number 1 in 11A, Mandan in 11 AA, but Jamestown number 1, they're 5-2 now.
And I'll tell you what, Mandan got the win there on a game-winning field goal as time expired. Exciting win for the Braves.
Sheyenne is 4-3 now, 61-0 tonight over Grand Forks Central.
They're good.
West Fargo's 5-2. Packers over Red River 42-8. Wahpeton, a touchdown better than Devils Lake tonight. Wahpeton gets to 4-3. In 11B in North Dakota, Kindred is 7-1. Vikings over Oaks tonight, 47-12. Lisbon is 5-3 now, 40-6 tonight over Sargent County.
Highlights coming from both of those games.
Bishop Ryan 20-12. Bishop Ryan 7-1 now. That's the first loss of the season for Velva in 11B. And Hillsborough Central Valley 7-1 now, 35-0 tonight over Grafton. Northern Cass and Langdon area Edmore Munich. Cardinals get to 7-1, 36-0 tonight is the final there. And number 1 Beulah just gets by Dickinson Trinity. Dickinson Trinity now 3-4, but Beulah is 8-0, 38-30 tonight.
We got highlights of that one too. There was not a ton of great games. That was one of the best of the night.
9-man in North Dakota, Napoleon-G-S and Hettinger-Scranton both 6-2 now after that good game this evening. Divide County and Surrey. Surrey wins that one. Surrey is 6-1. That's the first loss of the year for Divide County. Lemoore, Litchville, Marion. The Lobos number 1 in 9-man football in North Dakota, 34-0 tonight. They are 8-0. A lot of teams got to 8-0, including Cavalier with the 38-0 win. Nelson County is 8-0 after a win over New Rockford Cheyenne. Bottineau is 8-0, 50-0 tonight over North Prairie. New Salem Almont is 8-0. Holstein's 55-12 tonight. And Ray Powers Lake gets to 7-1 as they beat Mohall Lansford Sherwood tonight, 58-26 as they wrap up the regular season in 9-man in North Dakota. All right, South Dakota boards, Jandy. Harrisburg, number 1 in the big schools, 7-0 now, 62-12 tonight over Rapid City Central.
Back-to-back weeks for the Tigers where they didn't have to sweat one out.
Brandon Valley had 5 different guys score rushing touchdowns as they beat Mitchell.
Yeah, and they had Jack Dewey playing quarterback today. I'm not sure if that was by design or if there's an injury, but he threw 2 touchdown passes. And how about Sam Skolton going over 100 yards receiving and 2 scores?
Jefferson and Lincoln, as you mentioned, coming up on Saturday. Both teams are 4-2 going into that very interesting matchup. Sioux Falls Roosevelt's won back-to-back. Now 40-7 tonight. They had 27 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's big plays in that game. Can't wait to check out the highlights. Nelson Wright's 4th consecutive 100-yard game.
O'Gorman gets to 3-4, 62-14 tonight over Rapid City Stevens. We'll take a peek at that. T area, first year in moving up to 11 AA. Kale Lundeen to Clayton Sattler for a couple of touchdowns as they pull away and beat Aberdeen Central 42-20.
Yeah, good passing by Kale Lundeen. They came out in the second half and dominated. It was close for about a quarter and a half.
T is 7-0 though. Pierre and Watertown 52-42. Drew Norberg went nuts throwing it for Watertown. Lincoln Keenholz the same for Pierre.
Yeah, Drew Norberg found his favorite target, Cole Holden, time after time. We'll have a few highlights of that. And then Keenholz, once again in the passing game, goes crazy. Once again goes over 100 yards rushing. Can't wait to see how that all unfolded.
And Pierre is now 6-1. Brookings keeps rolling 5-2. Bobcats over Huron tonight, 42-14. Yankton is 4-3. The Bucks beat Sturgis 48-7 tonight. Madison, the game we had live on Midco Sports, 35-7 over Dell Rapids. Madison is 7-0.
Yeah, they looked like the #1 team in 11A. And speaking of 11A, this was a great game between West Central and Vermillion. We'll have a couple highlights of that one as well. And two quarterbacks that really went at it.
And what about this one? Elk Point Jefferson knocks out Bridgewater Emory-Eaton.
Oh, I tell you what, I thought Bridgewater Emory-Eaton maybe was a little bit of an aberration last week. This is a complete trend down for them. And Elk Point Jefferson with a quality win.
Elk Point Jefferson's now 5-2. 9AA #1 team Hanson just gets by Canistota.
Yeah, that was close.
32-24. DeSmet again on Thursday night rolled it up on Castlewood 60-7. DeSmet, #1 team in 9A, is now 7-0 on the season. And Herreid Selby area keeps on rolling 56-20. Herreid Selby is 8-0.
It's uncanny how many takeaways the Wolverines get on a weekly basis. They're usually +3 or more every week, and they do it again tonight. And I got to talk about this Howard Garrison game for a minute. This was back and forth all night. A huge play made by Jay Syfor to give them the lead, and then Howard sealed the win as Garrison came trying to score in the fourth quarter with an interception, so Howard stays unbeaten.
7-0 for the Tigers so far. All right, talked about Harrisburg, just a touch, and been talking about for the last month. They keep winning close games, but they keep winning.
They keep winning, and then last week they got Stevens, and then they pulled away and held that lead, and then this week they get a look at Central, and then next week they've got Jefferson, and then they got Brandon Valley. So the hits keep coming after this week, but this week, a little bit of a breather.
Let's see what Jacob Knuth and the Tigers did tonight at home against Rapid City Central. Central coming in 1-5, and Harrisburg rolling in at 6-0 on the season. And Knuth gets it going right away to Titan Tryon.
They have a wealth of receivers. Here's a sophomore that doesn't get a ton of action. He's been really showing that he can be a star. And Titan Tryon scoring from 25 yards out.
Knuth putting up some numbers tonight. Goes to Connor Henselman for a touchdown. And then Gavin Ross on the ground for Harrisburg.
He has been the best running back. And when you have an attack with the best quarterback and the best running back in the state, things get pretty dangerous.
Knuth then on a keeper after the fake to Ross right up the middle. 3 quick touchdowns for Knuth, and 62-12 is the final as the Tigers are 7-0.
Yeah, no problem for them. Brandon Valley has to face the Cobblers next week, while the Tigers have to take on Taylor and Ashley. That'll be a battle between, I think, the 2 top quarterbacks in the state.
That'd be very good. Harrisburg and Jefferson next week. Roosevelt coming on here late in the season. The Riders coming in at 2-4, taking on Washington at 3-3. And Elijah Tanai talking about coming on. Touchdown run there. Washington up 7-0.
He's been so good. He and Blessing splitting a little bit of time now that he's healthier. But Roosevelt came right back down, and they go to their man, Matt Gehring.
Great catch there on the throw by Jackson Brower. Here's Elijah Tanai again spinning and winning to the outside. 14-6, Washington in the lead.
Not many guys can spin and keep their balance quite like Elijah Tanai can. And then we got a little turnover again. Big play.
Nelson Wright made a bunch of big plays in this game for Roosevelt. Returns that for the score, and it's 14-13. Washington still hanging on to the lead, but the fumble here, Matt Gehring scoops it up, returns that to the 1.
I mean, he's an all-state caliber defensive player, and next play on the next quarter, Nelson Wright punches it in.
Direct snap there. So Roosevelt up 20-17, and then Jackson Brower again to Gehring. Gets away from a couple defenders there. This goes big, and Roosevelt in the lead, 26-17. And after a Washington field goal, here's the man again, Nelson Wright, busting it to the outside for 80 yards.
Really the difference between Roosevelt early in the season and now is they're getting huge plays from Nelson Wright. They're getting huge plays from Jackson Grevengood.
And then they get a pick here late.
And him.
And going back all the way, Esmeralda Muhammad with a little juke and scores, takes this back, 95, close to 95 yards, and Roosevelt pulls away after it was close. It was 20-17. And then Roosevelt pours it on, and they win it 40-27.
I also have to mention Jackson Brower, the young quarterback, steady. Every week puts up steady numbers, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. This Roosevelt team, I'm telling you, they are on a roll. They're looking good.
Lincoln coming up next for Roosevelt. O'Gorman at home tonight. Knights coming in at 2-4, same record for Rapid City Stevens, but a big night for Peyton Haig.
Nice.
It's a nice little grab there, and then Bennett Dannenbring with a touchdown run to cap off this drive.
Yeah, Dannenbring had his best week as a high school quarterback last week, going 13-14. Just picked up where he left off today.
Here they are hooking it up again, far side of the field. Haig taking it in, 13-0, and then he does it again.
Yeah, Peyton Haig is one guy that they can go to for big plays, and this is what happens with O'Gorman. They find a guy late in the season to feature that maybe didn't get a lot of looks early in the year.
This has been a good connection for Stevens. Jed Jensen there to Alex Treikomoinen with a touchdown catch and run. So it's 20-7, but then Dannenbring rolling the other way this time goes to Preston Konechny. That's a nice throw.
Nice little ball. Hey, you put a guy like Coach Poppinga with a quarterback who can throw it like that, eventually you're going to start putting up 40, 50, 62 points in a game. And after the game, Bennett Dannenbring talked about what this means for O'Gorman going forward.
Oh, we feel great. I mean, here on we can keep on rolling next week. We beat Jefferson. We're in a good spot in state. Like, we feel really good about where we're at. We had a tough spot to start the year, but from here on out, we should feel really good. We're going to get some good momentum going into the playoffs. We're going up from here.
Knights get to 3-4 tonight, and again, they host Huron coming up next week.
2 teams. I mean, Roosevelt and O'Gorman, who are on the right path up. I'll tell you what, those are 2 teams I wouldn't want to play going into the playoffs.
All right, Knights keep rolling tonight anyway. Let's get to T-Area. Talk about taking care of business this season. T-Area moves up from 11A to 11AA this year. They're 6-0 going into this game at home against Aberdeen Central. Golden Eagles at 3-3. And Clayton Sattler from Cale Lundeen for the first touchdown of the game.
Yeah, they can throw it a little bit. I know they love to run, but man, it keeps them honest when Cale throws a ball like that. And then the power from Carson Sarda, keeping it close early.
22 carries, 141 yards for Sarda tonight for Aberdeen Central. But Jackson Weber with the touchdown. He had 100 yards on the night on 11 carries, 15-6. T in the lead at halftime.
Yeah, second half was a different gear, and Jackson Weber has a different gear that nobody else in the state has, at least in that class. He can run.
T opens it up with 21 points in the third quarter. And
Yes,
Sarda is getting loose here. Look at this play, though.
He is getting loose, but never give up on the play, Blake Thompson. Don't give up on the play.
Punches it out, just takes it away from behind. The football never hit the ground as Thompson runs about 70 yards to run down Sarda and get the football back.
This is an opportunistic defense. The defensive backs on the Titans are crazy good.
Extra credit, Jandy.
Okay.
Titans kept tacking on rushing touchdowns, and they keep rolling. 7-0 now for T, 42-20 tonight over Aberdeen Central.
Good win for the Titans once again. Stay unbeaten, like you said. This was one of the biggest tests that they have left on the season. They've got Spearfish and West Central left.
All right, in 11A, Del Rapids and Madison had it live here on Midco Sports tonight from Madison. And the Tigers unbeaten, and they got going early. Nate Rickey to Dylan Bickett with the first score of the game. And then turn around second quarter, they kind of ran it down the field on this drive. Rickey with a 1-yard touchdown run, 14-0 Bulldogs. And then Caden Hanscom with one of several picks in the game for Madison.
Yeah, they had 2 really nice picks. That one just playing center field. And then Nathan Rickey, he can do it with his arms. He can do it with his legs.
65 yards there, 21-0 Madison. And then still in the first half, 90 seconds to go. Mike Peters on a little skinny slant there gets by. And Rickey with 4 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 2 through the air in that opening half. 28-0 Madison at halftime. They tack on a Bruce Galdi touchdown in the third quarter. 35-0, and pretty much over, but the shouting at that point is This is the interception by Mike Peters, and they had a couple juggling picks like this. Peyton Wolf had one later on. 3 interceptions in the game. Madison did give it right back here as the Warriors get on it, but then look at this interception by Wolf.
I mean, that's 3 crazy plays in the same game. Dells did finally break the shutout. It's a big run, but it wasn't enough to be competitive with the #1 team in 11A and now undisputed #1 team, Madison Bulldogs.
Madison just looked solid everywhere. Trey Smith was outstanding defensively as they pretty much shut down Del Rapids in this one. As Nate Rickey again, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground, and Madison at West Central coming up in their next contest with 2 to go in the regular season. Watertown at Pierre, Jandy. Pierre coming in at 5-1. Watertown at 3-3, and they scored, 94 points in this game.
I mean, we know they can put up points in bunches, but man, they are taking this thing to a new level. Here's a look at Drew Norberg, who's had 400 yards passing on the day. This hits his boy Cole Holden, who received for over 250 yards. And then Drew Norberg going back to work, finding his man once again. This thing was back and forth. Keenholz throws to Jack Merkwan this time. Last week, 4 touchdowns for the big boy. This time gets another big one down the field, a 60-yard touchdown pass. That sealed the win, 52-42. But, I mean, there was a lot of tie games in this one. There was a lot of 2 or 3 point leads, some 4-point leads. It was back and forth and some crazy numbers there by Lincoln Keenholz once again.
Governors, again, still trying to challenge T in this class. Pierre gets to 6-1.
We get to see them next week play against Aberdeen Central. I'm looking forward to seeing Lincoln Keenholz, probably the best player in this class.
Yeah, we'll have that game live here next Friday on Midco Sports. Back to 11A, West Central and Vermillion, both 4-2 coming into this game, and this was good throughout.
This was a lot of fun. Vermillion up early, but then it was West Central who got fire. It looked like Braden Diericks coming down with that one. And then right before halftime, Vermillion had a chance to just sit on the ball. They decided to push it down the field, and they are glad they did. They got it down to the 1-yard line, ended up punching it in. Jack Kratz with the pass. Looks like Sheffield there, is that right? With the touchdown?
Sheffield, yes.
And they took the lead going into halftime, and they wouldn't relinquish it from there. West Central, obviously a very good team. I think Braden Diericks is the best receiver in 11A.
He hauls in another one here, goes 55 yards. So it's still 21-20 Vermillion after West Central missed the extra point there. And then it is Kratz again, puts the Tanagers ahead 28-20. Still not done though, West Central. Cook to Diericks again.
Okay, now you got to go for 2.
Made it 28-26. Here's the 2-point conversion, trying to tie it.
So that would do it, folks.
That's the way it stays, 28-26.
How about that, Vermillion? I mean, it looks like an upset, 4-3, but Vermillion, I mean, you ask the coaches in 11A, everybody's talking about how physical they are, how balanced they are. They usually run the ball really well. Tonight, Jack Kratz throwing the ball really well, and Sheffield, one of the biggest playmakers in the state.
Tough schedule continues for West Central as they take on Madison coming up next week. 9AA, Jandy. Hanson unbeaten at Canistota Freeman.
Yeah, this is 2 teams in 9AA that have a chance to be, making a difference by the end of the year. And that's exactly what happened here. It was Hanson early on who got things going. They recover a fumble and got it in with a Brock Tuttle touchdown. Tuttle with 3 touchdowns on the night. He got the 2-point conversion as well. They were up 16-0. And then Cade Waldero with the interception takes it back. They would hit that 2-point conversion, 24-0 lead, but never count out the pride. Tage Ortman finds Will Ortman in the corner. The 2-point was good. They're on their way back. They put another one on the board as Tage Ortman stays alive somehow through the middle of that Hanson defense. They would pull within 1 score after converting on the 2-point. And then it was Isaiah Robertson who tied the game at 24, but in the end, Jackson Jarding makes a big play right here, getting them down the field, and he would be the one who would give it to Brock Tuttle, who got the win on the 2-point conversion. And Hanson, they get Howard next week. Battle of unbeatens. 1 in 9A, 1 in 9AA. And now Canistota Freeman, who's played really well with some really good teams, but their record says 4-3. That's some tough luck for the Pride.
All right, Herreid Selby did win. We don't have the highlights there, but Herreid Selby stays unbeaten in 9A as they beat Potter County 56-20.
That was the other game between ranked teams in 9-man football. And then 9B teams like Potter County, I was looking for somebody to maybe step up and challenge some of those other 9B teams. I'm not sure if Potter County's that team or not, but we know that Herreid Selby area, they're still undefeated. Howard's still undefeated. DeSmet's undefeated. 9A is loaded.
Castlewood in 9B was number one, and that number one has been just a shaky spot all year.
Yeah, I think
9B is
4 or 5 number one teams. It's kind of a mess. But Avon took care of business against Centerville. They stay at number one in 9B. We'll see if they can hold off Gayville, Vollen, and Potter County, and some of those other. Harding County even still has a shot.
All right, last game of the regular season coming up for some teams next week. Getting down to it in the 11-man classes as well in South Dakota. North Dakota, meanwhile, Jody Norstedt standing by with the games of the night in North Dakota.
Varsity Sports Live on Midcoast Sports is presented by Avera Orthopedics and South Dakota State University. Varsity Sports Live on Midcoast Sports is presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live, and let's get up to West Fargo and the highlights of the night in North Dakota with Jody Norstedt, who always outdoes us in the helmet game. But Jody, what's going on up there tonight?
Puny.
Gosh, a lot of fun, guys, and especially because this is the final week for 9-man teams. So we have playoffs coming up next week already for 9-man. The bracket will be revealed tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning. So for all those teams that are kind of waiting after tonight's results, who are we going to play? What seed are we going to be? Do we get a first-round bye? We'll find out all that information when the bracket gets revealed tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And a couple of Class A teams trying to kind of find their way into the playoffs too. Sargent County, Lisbon went head-to-head tonight, and of course they have this week, and then next week is the final regular season game for those Class A schools. Still a couple games to go for the big schools. But let's get to the highlights. Legacy and Minot. This one was a very important matchup as far as the QRF, the seeding, how that all ends up shaking out. Let's take a look at the highlights from the Magic City. Big playoff implications. Two teams trying to improve their playoff positioning. It looks like Logan Miller is taking the reins full-time under center for the Sabres. His arm is looking better. He hits Wyatt Kraft for the score. Legacy up 6-0. Minot comes right back with its own passing attack. Jaden Sparrow steps up into the pocket, connects with Logan Conklin, who rumbles across midfield for a big gain. More air raid offense to finish the drive. Sparrow floats one to Ty Kinchin. Nice to see Ty back and healthy. And he gets the touchdown. Minot takes a 7-6 lead. Home students loving that. Magi added their lead in the second on a 4th and goal. Sparrow, he's in. Makes it 13-6. A couple of Peyton Bart's field goals make it 19-6 Magi at the end of 3. Then the game turns on its head in the 4th. Miller, the QB, sets the tone for the rest of the quarter for Legacy. On a 4th and 5, he gets more than enough. It takes half the Magi defense to get him down. Handful of plays later, Carl Henry scored, making it 19-12. Legacy gets the ball back. More Miller time. This time his arm to Brett Lacombe. Can they finish the drive? You bet. Wes Snyder runs it in. The Sabres get the 2-pointer to take a 20-19 lead with 2:44 to go. Minot turns it over on downs, and Legacy puts this game out of reach. Oh, Henry, Carl Henry. Minot letting him score to try to get the ball back. The only problem is that Legacy added the 2-pointer to put it out of reach. 28-19 with 1:30 to go. That is your final. Huge come-from-behind win for the Sabres as they score 22 unanswered points, all in the 4th quarter to win it. They get Bismarck next week while Minot gets Jamestown. Century, the #1 team in 11-2A, wasted no time to get on the board against rival Bismarck tonight. Usually these two teams playing for a title at the end of the year. Just hasn't been the Demons season. Obviously the injury to Isaiah Hoos hasn't helped. Jacob Bosley catching this one from Brady Dahl. Boy, he has a lane, runs all around the defense. 4 minutes in, Century leads at 7-0. They force a Bismarck punt, and on the very first play of the next drive, Dahl hands it to Jacob Renz. Renz with a convoy in front of him. Boy, those offensive linemen know how to move some bodies. Same with Arndt and Trahan. 44 yards to the house, up 14-0. Brady Dahl following his guard to get up 21-0. A little later in the first half, Dahl from the shotgun takes it right, cuts back up the middle. That Century offensive line makes a lot of people look pretty darn good. 28-0 at the half, and the Patriots win their 29th straight game and third straight over Bismarck, 38-0. The final. Century at Sheyenne next week. Circle that one on the calendar. Let's take a look at those Mustangs and what they did tonight at Fargo North. Senior night at Fargo North. The Spartans taking on those tough Mustangs. North giving the Mustangs all they could handle in the first half. Daniel Butane downfield to Carson Schultes. 26-yard gain. Schultes 4 catches for 70 yards on the night. That leads to a 34-yard field goal attempt by sophomore kicker Max Watson. Dear Watson, he gets it 3-0. Sheyenne responds early in the second, driving inside the Spartan 10, but Grant Workentine's pass to the end zone picked off by Ethan Welk, ending the scoring threat. How about North? North have put together a long drive of its own now, converting on some big third downs. Mason Lockwood back in the lineup tonight, rumbles 12 yards, lower in the shoulder for the touchdown. It's 10-0. Spartans, are you kidding me? That's midway through the second. Mustangs put together a long, methodical drive down the field to get on the board late in the half. Big Josh Henricks bullying his way in, cuts it to 10-7, 50 seconds before halftime. But North moves it downfield in a hurry, and with 1 second left, Watson again, 40 yards. Woo! Kicker highlights. Take my breath away. Spartans take a 13-7 lead into the break, but Sheyenne gets rolling in the third, and they don't look back. Workentine rolling right. Big target, Xander Newton. 17 yards for the score. Sheyenne up 15-13 heading to the fourth, and Henricks puts it away. He's been doing this to a lot of teams this year. Look at that, carrying a defender into the end zone. 29 carries, 167 yards, 3 scores on the night. Josh Henricks buries North when it's all said and done, 30-13, but what a fight shown by that Spartans team, ranked number 3 in 11A. They're going to have something to say. Maybe both these teams will be in the Dakota Bowl. Who knows when it comes November 12th. Well, Davies has been officially eliminated from the playoffs for about 3 weeks now, but the Eagles, well, they just keep winning. Ranked 4th in state, hosting South tonight. The Eagles lost starting QB Dylan Feldner to injury on the first play from scrimmage. In comes freshman Mason Clabo, and he goes 70 yards on this run, setting himself up for a short yard touchdown. Then later in the first half, Clabo calls his own number again. Davies up 13-0 at the break. The freshman getting the job done. That Clabo name, you might recognize his older brother, Jaden. Davies receiving the second half kickoff, and Ray Brown. Recruiting has been picking up steam on Ray Brown, and it's going to pick up a little more after this. A 92-yard kick return for a score for Brown. Davies puts the nail in the coffin in this one. Eli Mock breaks a tackle. Whoop! Nice juke move, gets the ball to the outside arm. It's textbook. 60 yards to the house. Still in the third. Davies just pouring it on now. Clabo, he's going deep down the sideline to Oliver Luck. You got to show off that arm a little bit for the youngster, right? He got a little bit better, more comfortable in the pocket as the game wore on. Luck into the end zone. 33-0 Eagles, and they go on to win at 33-7. Third straight win for Davies, and they'll go play Fargo North next week in a game you can watch live on Midcoast Sports. Well, the next 2 games you'll see highlights of were officiated by this same crew. They pulled double duty tonight, and add a bonus, they're big fans of Varsity Sports Live, so they're going to be on the show. The nightcap form was 4th-ranked Kindred visiting Oaks. First play from scrimmage, Xavier Vosser looking for a receiver, but instead finds a Viking. Jorgen Swenson, plenty of green grass in front of him for the pick 6. Swenson, of course, playing quarterback lately for Max McQuillan, who's out with an injury. Next drive for the home team, Vossler facing 3rd and long, uses the pump fake, buys more time, throws a bullet to Joey Heim. The junior scoots up the sideline, a nice gain of 18. The drive ends up dying near midfield, so on comes the punting unit. And you know when we show a punt, something crazy is going to happen. The snap sails over Vossler's head. He scrambles to get it, somehow gets the kickoff, which is impressive itself. But even better, he was roughed. So Oaks gets to keep the drive going. It did stall, but still a sweet play. The Vikings owned most of the sweep plays tonight, though. Look at the play design. Swenson keeps it. Great blocking. Highlights are always better when you're doing it right in front of the camera. 15-0 Kindred. Next possession for Oaks. It was just one of those kinds of nights. The handoff botched. Chase Miller recovers. Frustrating start for Greg Dobitz's team. Trey Heinrich turns the fumble into points on this touchdown run. He had a couple of touchdowns last week in the win over Sargent County. Kindred locks up the region title and a top 4 seed with a 47-12 win. The Vikings get Lisbon next week. Oaks and a biggie against Sargent County a week from tonight. Beautiful scene in Gwinner as Sargent County hosted Lisbon. Winner pretty much locks up a playoff spot. Broncos up 16-0 early, but Bulldogs getting pressure. Sophomore Luke Martinson sacks Bowden Greenlee for a loss. And later in the drive, Greenlee using his legs, and he is pretty darn good at that. 7 powerful yards as he fights across the goal line. 3 rushing scores for Greenlee in the first half, and Lisbon takes a 24-zip lead. The ensuing drive for the Bulldogs ends with a thud. The handoff exchange goes awry, and Wyatt Webb recovers it for the Broncos. Another killer for the home team. 24-zip Broncos at the break. First drive of the second half, Eric Olson's offense comes out slinging it. McFarland looking for Ryan Brouillard. Great catch, and he spins his way in. Bulldogs on the board, trailing 24-6. An unsuccessful onside kick attempt gives the Broncos a short field, though, and they take advantage. Caden Sweet threw a big hole for a short touchdown run, 32-6 visitors. After a stop on D, Lisbon moves the ball again. Cameron Opp with the always sexy 1-yard touchdown run. 40-6 Broncos late in the third after the 2-pointer. Lisbon goes into enemy territory and picks up a critical W, 40-6. Senior lineman Caleb Olson said afterward, this one was big.
A big thing, like as a team leader, I tried talking to everyone. We had to have confidence. Past 2 weeks we lacked confidence. I thought we were better than some of those teams, and we just lacked the confidence on defense and controlling our own destiny now. If we lost this game, we're out of playoffs, and now we're almost locked in, but beating Kindred will definitely help.
How about Beulah taking on Trinity? The Miners still undefeated, but boy, the Titans gave them quite the fight tonight. Senior running back Zane Phelps getting into the end zone here. Beulah doubles its lead to 16-0 with a 2-point conversion, but Trinity finally gets its offense going as senior QB Drew Kovash hands off to Ty Dassinger, and the Titans trail 16-8 after a successful 2-pointer. Trinity's next possession also gets some points. Kovash finds senior Aiden Hike at the 3, and he stretches into the end zone. 2-pointer no good. Beulah leading 15-14 at the half. Miners get the ball to start the second half. Bryce Catterman starts up the middle, then breaks to the left into the end zone. That's Amari Gilmore, excuse me. Someone had the wrong note there, but Gilmore ends up with 288 yards on 27 carries, 3 touchdowns. He's over 1,000 for the season, and Beulah wins it 38-30 tonight. Miners stay undefeated. Let's go to Napoleon-G-S and Hettinger-Scranton. Napoleon-G-S already in the playoffs. Hettinger-Scranton already a Region 6 title winner. How about that juggling catch by Caden Spurl? Nice chunky yardage. To the second, Imperials finally break through. A direct snap to Trenton Herbal, and he goes in untouched. Napoleon with an 8-point lead. One drive later for the Nighthawks, and they come up with an answer. Tristan Picas on the fullback dive. One of the best plays in the playbook, right? Tie game at 8 just before the end of the half. Hettinger-Scranton knocking on the door once again. You remember this guy from last week against Mount Regent New England. Connor Andrus on the carry. Finds the lane. He's getting in for 6, but Napoleon-G-S rallies to win this one, 30-22. Remember, Hettinger-Scranton already clinched the Region 6 title, already had that first round bye locked up, so they will not have to play next week, but Napoleon-G-S into the playoffs on a high note with an 8-point win. Back to the Class A ranks to finish it. Velva Garrison against Bishop Ryan. This one for the pretty much the region title and the penny that they play for, the penny trophy. Gotta love that one. And it was a freshman really lighting things up. We'll get to him in a bit. Ben Shep to Preston Kraft, a little bit of trickeration. Thomas Bodine with a touchdown. Velva up 6-0. Looking like Gage Florence out there in that number 20. And Bishop Ryan answers back. Jet Lundeen. The touchdown pass to Zach Henderson. Getting used to me saying that in these highlights. Bishop Ryan goes up 7-6. Students making some noise. And then it's Lundeen to his man again, Zach Hendrickson. Look at that catch. like a rainbow. Pot of gold at the end of it. Bishop Ryan up 13-6. Roger Coleman, Lions head coach, pretty pumped about that. Velva, remember, unbeaten coming into this game. Lundeen showing his elusiveness here. Gets it to Jace Schwann. Schwann is able to work his way upfield. And then Lundeen is going to score on the touchdown run. I mean, just look at the athleticism of this freshman. Bishop Ryan is going to be a handful the next couple of years, and a big reason why is this guy named Jet. Velva gets back onto the board, though, again with a little bit more trickeration. Ben Shep to Preston Kraft, the lateral to Thomas Bodine. You've heard those three before. They get in to the end zone. Bishop Ryan up 20-12 still, though. And here in the final moments of the game, how about more trickeration for Velva? Can they score on this one? No. An 8th grader, Cade Okeson, is going to lay the wood to finish it. Again, 8th grade. Punishing hit. Looks like he's going to be one for the future, too. His teammates are jacked up, and for good reason, because Bishop Ryan wins the region title with that play. 20-12, the Lions go roaring into the night with a big victory.
Our coaches put in great route concepts this year, and our freshman QB, Jet Lundeen, played great, made great throws, and it fell in my lap. I mean, it means a lot. Sandy's a great coach over there. They got a great coaching staff, and their players play harder than any other team in the region, and it's a great feeling.
And guys, a couple of other things to highlight. Obviously, a huge win for Bishop Ryan. Last night, I have this helmet on here for a reason. 4 Winds Indians clinched a playoff spot last night. They won 3 straight to finish the season, so they're into the playoffs for just the 2nd time ever. They made it a couple of years ago, so congrats to them. Enderlin Maple Valley gave Lemoore Litchfield Marion a fight in that one. I think it was like a 1 or 2 score game at the half, and that's saying something against the Lobos. Lobos end up going on to win big, so good for them. But Surrey over Divide County in another matchup out in the northwest corner of the state. Fun matchup there, but Surrey is able to outlast Divide County and hand them their first loss. We'll be back to wrap things up with some zone coverage coming up next on Varsity Sports Live.
Varsity Sports Live on Midcoast Sports is presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Time for some zone coverage, a little coach reaction from some games we were at tonight. Let's go back up to West Fargo and Jody. And before that, Jody, talk about 9-man, the playoff format in 9-man football in North Dakota changed this year, right? The field expanded. Are we right on that?
Yeah, so there will be first-round buys, which is, you know, a little bit of a change. So it's going to be different. I think it's the top 4 teams that get in for each division. I have my paperwork somewhere there. You really caught me off guard, Tom. Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
Well, it did change, but that's
I don't
know
say
any more about it.
That's all you have to say, Jody. It changed.
It's funny because you work on it all day, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, what? But yes, 9-man will look a lot different, and there's so many regions now in 9-man too. I think there's whatever it is, 8. But Lemoore Litchfield Marion, the obvious favorite, the Lobos are going to be tough to deal with.
But there's a lot of unbeaten teams still. There's still 5 unbeaten teams, I think, in 9-man. Is that unusual, or is that?
Yeah, and that's something that's different too. But when you're sticking with kind of your regions and playing your side of the state, you're just not going to get as much crossover, and teams aren't going to be having to play as tough a schedule. So we're really going to figure out who played the toughest schedules, who kind of got themselves prepared for the postseason once push comes to shove and the playoffs get rolling next week. So it's going to be interesting. There are going to be some very interesting first-round matchups where you might think that, you know, seeds aren't really going to matter too much, I don't think. It's going to be interesting how that works out.
All right.
But, all right, let's take a look at Class A. One of the teams that kind of punched its way into the playoffs, Lisbon. It was basically, if they lost tonight, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. But instead, they beat Sargent County. So the Broncos are in. Remember, they were in the Dakota Bowl last year. Made it all the way to play that great Langdon Edmore Munich team. Lisbon was so loaded with Jordan Sowers, Hunter Schultz in that backfield. Now it's Bowden Greenlee and Caden Sweet. But the one constant has been that great offensive line. The Rhinos, their nickname. But Joe Girding, pretty happy with his team's performance tonight, responding after back-to-back losses. I mean, they lost to a good Central Cass team. They lost to Oaks last week, but they come out and get a big win, 40-6 over Sargent County tonight. Hear from Joe.
We talked all week about how, I mean, it wasn't physical mistakes that we were making the last couple of weeks. It was just mental mistakes, and we just focused hard all week on the mental side of it and just being assignment sound and just being sharp, and I mean, it paid off tonight.
And now Lisbon gets this opportunity against Kindred, so they're kind of licking their chops at a possible huge win to go into the playoffs if they can knock off the Vikings, who have been playing some really good football. Don't know what Max McQuillan's status is going to be, the quarterback for Kindred. The usual quarterback, saw him on the sidelines tonight in Oaks and street clothes. We'll see if they'll be able to get him back for Matt Crane's team, but time will tell. For Bishop Ryan, what a statement. They hand Velva Garrison its first loss of the season, and they do it with just a wide open offense of Jet Lundeen throwing the ball down the field, connecting with his receivers. Just a freshman, but he's really been lighting it up, and he's one of those weapons that Bishop Ryan has had. And this is a team that's always had some really good weapons the last couple of years, but they've also tripped up when they've won these big games. So Bishop Ryan's going to have a high seed going into the playoffs, but that always necessarily doesn't equate to success in the playoffs, as Roger Coleman is very well aware of.
But a few years ago, we won the region title in the last game of the regular season, just like this, took the 1 seed, won the penny. We lost in the first round as the 1 seed. So, I mean, it gives us a lot of confidence, but at the same time, you know, we can only celebrate for so long, and then we got to be ready for those playoffs in a couple weeks. I think our playmakers make big plays. We talked about that before the game. Big games are for big plays from big playmakers, and we have those, and they seem to come up huge when it's needed the most.
Yeah, and they do play for the Penny Trophy, guys, so that one is going to go to Bishop Ryan tonight. Velva had won the previous two matchups. Bishop Ryan gets the Penny tonight. And if I'm doing my math correct, Tom, I just thought about it. So it's the 8 regions in 9-man, and then the top 3 in each region get into the playoffs, and we'll go from there. So 24 teams make it, and 8 teams get first-round buys. So we'll see how it all shakes out, baby.
That field is announced tomorrow morning, you said, right?
That field is announced tomorrow morning. It should come out at about 11 o'clock. So I'll tweet things out. And I'll also tweet out a video here in a little bit. Alex Wagner hit a game-winning field goal for Mandan tonight. You guys talked about the final score in that win over Jamestown. That's a good win for Mandan. It'll really help them in the QRF because Jamestown has had a lot of success so far this season. So Mandan's able to get that win on an Alex Wagner walk-off winner for Mandan on the kick.
All right. Nice work, Jody. Thanks, buddy. See you later.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Jandy, back in South Dakota. A couple teams in 11 AAA that you think are coming on, getting better at the end of the year. Roosevelt's one.
Yeah.
O'Gorman is the other.
Roosevelt has really turned a page, and they started running the ball more. They started using Nelson Wright more. They have a really good defensive backfield. I think they're in a good position going forward. And I think O'Gorman, I mean, it's tough to tell. They just played Central and Stevens. I know the 2 bottom teams right now in 11 AAA, but they always get it going toward the end of the season. And Bennett Dannenbring was a brand new quarterback at the beginning of the year. I think he's figured out. He's got some targets now with Peyton Hagee and Manny Struck. I think they are going to make a move here at the end of the year. And I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see because there's so many teams I wouldn't want to play in the 11 AAA playoffs right now.
Hagee had 4 touchdown catches tonight for O'Gorman. The Knights beat Rapid City Stevens 62-14, and we have Jason Poppinga after that game tonight for O'Gorman.
You know, our quarterback's making good decisions right now. I mean, early in the year we struggled, and Bennett's obviously was new to O'Gorman this year, but he's picking up the offense, and he's feeling really comfortable right now. And, you know, we've lost our top receiver, Manny Struck, and guys have stepped up. Peyton Hagee had a big night tonight, and we're just proud of how our guys performed on the field.
Got it done. O'Gorman's 3-4. They host Huron, and then they play Jefferson in the last regular season game.
Yeah, we're going to find out a lot, obviously, over the next couple of weeks. But what he said about being comfortable with Bennett Dannenbring really does ring true. Just a junior. He isn't a passing offense. He mentioned it. They don't have Manny Struck down the stretch, so Peyton Hagee stepping up really gives them a weapon to go to in the passing game.
Speaking of Jefferson and Lincoln play on Saturday, 6 o'clock game. Both teams are 4-2. A thought on Jefferson and Lincoln on Saturday?
These two teams are very similar. I think they love to pass the ball. They both have a few issues stopping the other team once in a while, and I think we could have a high-scoring game here with some quarterbacks really going after it. Running is kind of an afterthought for both teams. Angel Drashegi can run the ball for them, but he's not going to be a workhorse guy who gets it done throughout the game. Lincoln, probably the biggest surprise team in 11 AAA this year. And Jefferson, they are coming off a loss last week, and whoever loses this game will be on a 2-game losing streak, and I think heading in the wrong direction. So it's a little bit of a little extra desperation on this game for Sioux Falls teams who want to make a nice run into the playoffs.
Probably a toss-up tomorrow between Jefferson.
It's going to be great.
And Lincoln. They'll play at 6 o'clock on Saturday to round out this week in high school football in South Dakota. When we come back, got the rundown, a little look ahead to what's going on Saturday when we come back.
Varsity Sports Live on Midcoast Sports is presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Getting late here in the regular season in high school football, but let's take a look at what's coming up here on Midco Sports on Saturday. First of all, we got a couple of really good college football games. You got North Dakota going down to Vermillion to take on USD at 2 o'clock, and in Brookings, South Dakota State will take on Southern Illinois. That's a top 10 game in the FCS. This game right here is on Midco Sports 1. And the Jackrabbits will be over on Midco Sports 2, taking on Southern.
You're pointing to the Jackrabbits.
Illinois. Okay, Jackrabbits will be on 2, and UND at USD on Midco Sports 1. Talk about the T area Titans before we get out of here this week. And you should be impressed, I think.
You should be impressed.
They made the move up from 11A and moved up and playing Yankton and Pierre and all these teams and just beating them all.
I remember, well, they didn't play Pierre, and they don't
play Pierre, that's right.
Yankton. So they have something to prove still because they've had probably the weakest schedule of everybody, but they're absolutely crushing people. So, we look at Watertown, a game where T handled Watertown, and then we saw Watertown go out to Pierre and give them a game. So we get a little measuring stick there. I think T is rightfully the number 1 team in this class, but Pierre, they get better as the year goes on.
And Brookings is still hanging in there. And all right, there's still some competition to be had in 11AA.
Oh, yes.
All right, we will see you on Saturday for some college football. Here's the rundown. See you next week on Varsity Sports Live.